Today we're going to talk about the past continuous or the past progressive. The use is to describe actions and events in progress in the past, and the events may be temporary or unfinished. For example, I was doing my homework last night. It's an action that was in progress last night. Now it is finished. It's very easy to form. In the affirmative form, we're going to start with a subject, for example, they. Then we're going to put was or were, depending on this. In this case, it's going to be were. And then the verb has to go in the present participle form, so with an ing. We can say watching a movie. Another example can be I was washing the dishes. In negative form, it's going to be similar, except we're going to add not to was or were. So the short form of that is wasn't or weren't. Some examples. I wasn't paying attention. Or we weren't looking. I'm going to explain to you 4 uses that the past progressive can have. The first use is to give context or describe the atmosphere. This is when we watch a movie. It's very common. When we read a book, when we tell an anecdote. For example, let me draw you a picture. I'm obviously not an artist, but here's my picture for you to imagine the scene. It was a beautiful day at the park. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and everybody was smiling. This gives you background information so that you can imagine the scene in your mind. The second use is to show that 2 actions were happening at the same time. And we call these parallel actions. For example, if I say I was studying while my sister was watching TV. Let me show you that on a timeline. Okay, this is time. This is the present. So now, over here we have the future, and over here is the past. Okay, this is me studying, and this is my sister watching TV. There are 2 actions. They're happening at the same time in the past. Maybe yesterday, last week, last month, last year. But I was studying and my sister is watching TV at the same time, and we did not interrupt each other. So that was the second use. 2 actions happening at the same time in the past. Use number 3 is to describe an interrupted action in the past. we're going to use the past continuous to show the longer action that was in progress, and we're going to use the past simple to talk about the short action that interrupted the other action. Let me give you an example sentence. I was watching TV when she called. We have the past, the present, and the future. Here in the past, I was watching TV. But then somebody called me and they interrupted. So I had to stop watching TV. Okay? This was in progress, but it was interrupted by a phone call. The phone call was fast and it only happened one time. It started and it finished. It was not in progress. What was in progress was me watching the TV. The fourth use is specific time as an interruption. This one is a little bit difficult to understand. The example I have is at 6 p.m. yesterday, I was eating dinner. Okay, this is 6 p.m. and this is me eating dinner. "6 p.m. is the time that I want to know about. I started eating dinner before 6 p.m. and I finished after 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. started and finished, and I was still eating. Okay? This is different from at 6 p.m. yesterday. I ate dinner. Here we have 6 p.m. and the sentence says that I ate dinner at 6 p.m. So exactly at 6 p.m. I ate dinner. The difference here is that if I use the past simple, what I'm saying is that I started to eat dinner at 6 p.m. Exactly at 6 p.m. In this one, in the past progressive, what I'm saying is that I ate dinner around 6 p.m. There's not an exact time. I started to eat dinner before 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., I was eating dinner, and I finished after 6 p.m. Another thing we need to talk about is the use of when and while when we are telling a story that includes the past simple or the past progressive. First, we're going to talk about while. While, we can use it for two different things. To talk about two simultaneous actions. Do you remember the parallel actions? That's where we're going to use while. For example, the children were playing while their mom was making dinner. While means that the children were playing at the same time that their mom was making dinner. It's simultaneous. We can write this a different way. While the children were playing, their mom was making dinner. I want you to notice a few things. First, in this sentence, we have while in the center. Because we have while to separate the children and their mom, we don't need a comma. Here in the second sentence, we have while at the beginning. So then here, we need a comma. Do you remember when we talked about if and when? If I have a cold, I take medicine. When I get a headache, I take an aspirin. It's the same concept. This is a connecting word. It connects two sentences. The children were playing can be its own independent sentence. And their mom was making dinner is also an independent sentence. But if we want to put them together in just one sentence, we need this connector word, while. And what while means is that they were happening at the same time. We can also use while to show an interruption. While usually goes before the present progressive. For example, while we were taking notes, comma, a classmate left to the bathroom. Here we have an interruption. While we're normally or usually going to put it before the part of the sentence that's in present progressive. After that comma, we have the classmate left in past simple. And we can write it the other way around. A classmate left to the bathroom. While, no comma, we were taking notes. Okay, do you see that? Again, we have while over here in the beginning with a comma, or we can have while in the center, and again, after while, we have the past continuous or past progressive. When also has two uses. The first use of it is for two or more past simple actions in order. An example is when my mom came home, comma, my brother took the chicken out of the freezer. Again, we have when in the beginning, so I need a comma over here. These two actions are in the past simple. They are not happening at the same time. First, my mom comes home, and then after, my brother remembers that he had to take the chicken out of the freezer. And so that happens second. We can't put it the other way around because this one happened first and this one happened after. If I say, when my brother took the chicken out of the freezer, my mom came home, it would not make sense. The other use of when is for interruptions. When is usually followed by the past simple. So an example is, I was studying when she called. Okay. I was studying and then she called, so that interrupted my studying and I had to stop. Okay. We have when and after, past simple. And we can write it the other way around. When she called, comma, I was studying. We have when at the beginning, the comma over here. After when, past simple. When she called, she interrupted me. And what I was doing was studying.